okay. I was wondering about Friday. How many people do you think will be at the movie night?
It's hard to say, sweetie, but it's for junior high students. You're in high school now, so yeah. High school movie night was 2 weeks ago, but we're gonna do more of those soon.
Okay.
Yep. And we try to keep everybody kind of spaced. That's why we're doing it high school and middle school too, to help. And it's guys and girls. So it's high school girls specifically. So yeah, I think there were like 7 or 8 of you guys there. So
okay.
Yeah.
So when do you think will be the next time?
Probably pretty soon.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do a bunch of those for sure. Okay. Share this. People know we're on.
Man, I can't believe I graduated and now I'm an 11th grader now.
That's pretty awesome. For sure. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What have you been doing this summer so far?
Well, my sister's birthday was actually yesterday, so we're celebrating that. And then it was really fun. We watched the Sound of Music.
Yeah.
My sister watched it for the first time, and my mom for the first time. And they were like, "Why didn't you make us watch this sooner?" It was a good movie.
It is a good movie.
Well, how have you been?
I'm well. I'm listening, sweetie. I'm just trying to finish setting up everything online for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody gets online. Yeah, no, we're doing really, really well. I'm glad it's summertime. I'm glad we don't have to fool with online school anymore.
Yeah. Okay, well, it was great talking with you.
Yeah, sweetie. We're going to have fun tonight. Glad you're here.
What are you doing? Kick each other. My hair looks really bad.
I crossed those
It's
sodas.
like I tried so hard to get it better. Yeah, I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah.
What are y'all doing? Gaga Baba.
I know y'all are scared. All of that water and stuff. upset. So I had to be scary. When I got done, I was like, I'm so glad you did something. I know. Because I don't even.
We were also having Hi, Janet.
Can they see me? They can see us. Hi.
Alright, guys, welcome to Midweek. Right now here, we are going to tonight, but our worship is not here yet. It's stuck in traffic. We'll be here soon. But that's okay. We want to start with some cool stories and some announcements too. Y'all tell me what's going on. Besides nothing. Certainly, people told me nothing. Surely there's something. I heard a story about somebody getting hit by a truck. So right now, that's the bar. Jake got hit by a truck. So yeah, that's why Jake's not here tonight. It's Jordan. Jordan got hit by a truck. Yeah, that is our okay. No, that's a different story. All right, Cindy, what were you saying?
So today I had one of those like bottles of like vanilla Starbucks drink.
Yeah.
And so I had closed it because it got stuck, like the lid got stuck on it.
Yeah.
So like I couldn't open it, and I wished my dad couldn't open it, so then got a bottle of beer. And I finished the drink, and then I realized there was blood on it. So I guess my dad had cut himself like whenever he did the bottle opener. He was just kind of like, yeah, okay.
No,
It was fun.
that happened in the Incredible Hulk. The dude died, so let's be careful. Right? Saying, or maybe it's superpower. Hey, okay, cool. All right, so there we go. We got a bloody coat. What else? Wes?
Another job at Evergreen Market.
How's that going?
I haven't started yet.
Okay. Are you going to start training you soon though? Because they open like the next week or two.
Yeah, I'm gonna start this.
Very cool, man. That's exciting. What are you going to do?
Cleaning.
It's a job, right? Get back to you. I've seen some places. I'm just trying to think of where it's at. Yes. Yes. You want to get down food? See Janet probably every day. Yeah, Janet and Abby worked in Sonic. How often would she see you?
Many times.
There you go.
I try to spread out my Sonic so I support multiple businesses.
But if Abby worked there, you compound, right? There you go. See?
Yeah, there you go. Where's Sonic go? The one down by you, up by one man. Oh, sorry.
Hey, Abby, I'm going to that one. I got it. Awesome. All right, what else? Cool story. Scott.
I get to work at Boys Referee for the next 2 weeks.
For real?
Yeah. So I've been waking up at 6 in the morning and driving an hour and a half to Costa Rica for the past 2 days to go ride. No, but yeah, so I get to get up at 6:30 in the morning for the next 2 weeks.
So are you teaching people how to ride? What's the last story?
So the lady that's running the camp is teaching the kids how to ride, but then I'm making sure that like they don't fall off and like severely hurt themselves. And then I get, I'm mostly deep and then I also get to teach two devotionals for like 3 times.
That's awesome. Hey, Chris, first thing, really cool story. Cool that you did. What you got?
But I have a 50 map art of ignoring my alarm. Yes. Except for 9, but I seem to be waking up at 11:30. I try to wake her up. Wake up.
Okay, so Katie sets bar. 11:30 is the latest wake up time. We got 1:30. 1:30. Wait, 1:30 bar. Am I past 1:30? 4 o'clock. 7 p.m. Yeah. What's your favorite fires in church? I woke up at 9:30. Okay, so those of you who like to sleep at 8 a.m. this morning, we're glad you're here.
Although I fell asleep. I think like you go down as well. I only stayed at like 6.
So you fell asleep in the
I was forced to. By myself.
Okay, I need to hear the story. What's the?
No, we didn't have family over.
Oh,
And I made it.
so the whole house stayed up all night long?
Oh no, I couldn't fall asleep if I just stayed up. And now I get messed up with sleep cycle and I'm staying awake more
I don't know. Cool story. Several of y'all are either on the brink of getting your permit and or your license right now, right?
Yeah.
There's Jordan Thompson. Excellent. Good. I'll make some rides, so I'll give y'all a buzz.
Well, if you don't make my mind.
I've done driver's ed for several of y'all. So it's not about me at all. It's a good time. Very, very cool. It's good. Anybody else? Last call. Abby. Abby graduated. That was pretty awesome. But it's going to happen. We're excited about that. Okay. All right. Let's do some announcements real fast, and then Jordan, if Jordan's ready, anyway, I'm going to do announcements. There you go. 5 minutes or so. Maybe a little bit more time. We'll see what happens. So, guys, here is the plan. Some of our general plans for summer. If you saw my email yesterday, you know, sort of, if not, that's okay. So we are going to be meeting up here in the loft every Wednesday unless we announce otherwise. So it'll be 6 to 7 at least for a little while. Eventually, we will start to extend that out more. We will eventually break out all of our games, the video games, and the Gaga and all that stuff. Right now, we just have to be mindful of what we're touching and walls touching it. But I really feel like those days are pretty much done. So let's be excellent. Glad you're all here. Those days are coming to an end. So y'all just be patient about that. But from now, we'll be from 6 to 7. When you come up here, it's still okay to stand around and talk. Just be mindful of who you're touching and how you're touching, which those are kind of already rules anyway. We do have, back there in the back, we've got hand sanitizers. Just wash your hands. Don't feel like you have to wash your hands every time you shake hands with somebody. That's a good way to make somebody feel awful to touch someone else, and you can go like douse yourself from Purell, right? We're just going to talk about that a little bit tonight, just how we make others feel. It's pretty interesting. But that's the plan for Wednesday nights, okay? Every Thursday at lunchtime, normally during summertime, you don't want to do youth lunches. So you 70s don't know that because this has been your first summer. You're having a really awkward first summer. Sorry. We're going to try to make it as normal as possible. Instead of meeting at a restaurant right now, though, which some restaurants we could do, but the way that they space everyone's is really, really weird. We don't have space. There's going to be the better option right now is for us to just do youth lunch up here. So on Thursdays from noon to 1, you guys just show up. You can either pack a lunch and come. If you don't want to eat, that's fine. Just want to show up. If you want to stop at Chick-fil-A to bring it up, that's fine. We can, gawk at who has the best lunch. That's fine. But we'll have tables set up here. We're going to have 5 people at each table, so we can still eat together and laugh and play. We may have an episode or 2 of something up running on the TV. I don't know what. If you've got some suggestions for me besides The Office, I'm all ears. By the way, I've been watching The Office here and stay at home. And holy crap, like that's like it's kind of funny, but it's not near as funny as it's like I had it in my head. Y'all made it out to be for so long. Yeah, and that's funny. Like you watch all the episodes in a row. Parks and Rec is funny for sure. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But I will say. The funniest thing with Criminal Minds is not funny at all. That is a good show. The funniest thing I've ever seen on TV ever is the fire drill scene in Office. That scene. We might watch the fire drill scene tomorrow. I don't know. But anyway, that's the perfect one. So, Thursdays from noon to 1, you come up here and eat lunch. 1 o'clock, we've got to shoot you out because there's other stuff we need to do up here. But also, though, on Thursdays from 4 o'clock to 6:30, that's when our church does the fruit giveaway. If you haven't heard about this, every Thursday from now to the end of the summer, our church family is giving away 864 boxes of fruit and vegetables. Like a big box of fruit and vegetables. There's apples and oranges and potatoes and onions and carrots and I don't even know what else. There's several types of fruits and vegetables, and we just give them away. By the way, your families qualify for that. Like, it's not just for poor people, it's not just for people that go to our church, it's for any human being that shows up and says, hey, can I have a box of fruit and vegetables? We give it to them. So, one of the things that you can do, and we'd love to do this, is y'all can come up and help us give those away. Not only need people to actually pull boxes off of the pile and put it in people's vehicles, but we also need people to stand on the side of the road and wave and say, hey, come get fruit and vegetables. We need other people to stand and like tell people what direction to go, because they come in the entrance here and then have to work their way to the back of the parking lot, which you think would be pretty easy, but it's not, because people keep going the wrong direction, right? So anyway, if you want to come help and serve with that, we would love to do it. That's every Thursday before 6:30, or until all the fruit and vegetables gone. I can easily see, as this continues to grow, that we could be done in an hour, maybe, if everyone shows up and grabs the fruit and vegetables. Because they also have the option of saying, hey, can I have 2 boxes or 3 boxes, and they can give away to their neighbors, which we encourage people to do. Certainly want our church family to do that, because it's a great way to meet your neighbors. So, come and get free food. Well, you can't get free food tomorrow at lunchtime. You have to bring your own food. But then if you want to come back at 4 o'clock, we'll give you free food. It's a whole box of fruit and vegetables. You can do that and help us give away free food. And then on Friday, this coming Friday, we're going to do junior high movie night. High school movie night was a couple of weeks ago. Junior high movie night. Boys, we're going to be at the Martin's house. We're going to flop it this time. Girls, you're going to be at my house. So since Becca is the 7th grade girls teacher, y'all are girls, you're going to be at my house. Boys, we're going to be at Nick and Janet's house. That's the 7th grade boys class. We'll do that from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We are not giving you food for this one. We have to be really careful with food right now, which I hate. Like, love cleaning, okay? So bring your own food, whatever you want to snack on. But we can do drinks. There'll be lots of sodas and bottles of water, because it's okay for y'all to reach into a cup. Yes, sir.
It's not like,
Current 7th and 8th grade. Yeah, you've not promoted it. You won't promote until August. We will promote the new 6th graders probably the last week of July, which I know several of you have siblings that are moving up. So in fact, I've already had some of them say, hey, can I just go and start coming? And I tell them, I love you, but no, it's not your time. We include my son. He pops up here by default because the spec comes up here sometimes. But yeah, Anson and several of your little brothers and sisters moving up. It's really cool. But yeah, last week of July, when we promote them, and then by default, you guys will bump up at that point too. So yes, right now, junior high movie night is current. If you just finished 7th grade, just finished 8th grade, that's you, all right? So again, boys, we are at Nick and Janet's, and I'll continue to text this out. Girls, you'll be at my house. By the way, if you haven't joined your remind, so you're getting these notifications, you need to do that, okay? Just send a text message to 81010 that says the @TLCUTH. And you get all of that information. Your parents should have got an email from me that has a lot of stuff on it too. If not, haven't checked that. But join the line, we'll be ready to rock. Okay, so that's the stuff that's happening this week. Kind of long-term summer stuff, guys. We're putting together a church-wide mission trip. It's not really a mission trip. We're not going anywhere. It's like into our community. We're going to have a really cool opportunity to serve our city in multiple venues. And then in the evening, we'll do the serving in the morning. In the evenings, we're going to have worship services up here, but it's going to be like a youth worship service and an adult worship service, kids rock worship service. So we'll have a special band and a special speaker. So kind of like youth camp, and I'm going to see if we can invite like some of our other church friends to come hang out with us too, so we can have a little bit of a church camp feel as well. That'll be the end of July, so we're excited about that. And then we're working on just some other fun things that we can do, like swim parties like we normally do. It just won't be everybody all at once. It'll be high school girls, or high school guys, or whatever. We got to keep these things smaller, so continue to do some things we're used to doing. Again, it's going to look and feel different, at least for a little while, but eventually, I'm really hoping by the end of the summer, we'll get back to almost normal. And it sounds like your school year is going to be fairly normal too. So this is, fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. But that's the plan, all right? What do you look at Abby's crossing her fingers? Like, what do you care, man? You're done with school. You're hoping you're going to be normal. All right? So, anybody got any questions? No? Awesome. All right, Jordan, you ready to rock? Cool. You want to come up here? I'm going to pray. Let's sing a couple of songs, and now we're going to really go on. So let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you for today. Father, thank you that we're here and get to hang out. Lord, I'm so glad that it's summertime. I'm proud of everybody that's graduated or fixing to graduate. I'm thankful that we're done, at least for the most part, with classes and all that stuff. One of the things that just hanging on. So would you help us to be patient right now while it's still. Lord, we're not self-isolating anymore, but it's definitely not normal, and that's kind of frustrating too. Help us be patient and work together, find fun, creative ways for us to be together. But right now, still, worship you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'm going to stand up. Okay, there we go. Cool. We're going to do the sheep, which I hope you're all familiar with by now. I remember one day that's it, I put together so I did for others arms that we would but you see me, I don't surrender. Promise you just you are the only one who seeks to find the way. A shepherd to the wanting sheep, a voice to call and tell the street. But you see me, you pick me up and put me on your shoulder. You promise you that you are my Father.
You are my shepherd. In the midst of everything you've done, you left me hiding at the sink of the world. From the one you love me, all things that you found me. I was a weary world, but you saved me. Pick me up and put me on your shoulder. And brought me to the street. No one to love me, oh, things that you found me. Oh, the weary world, but you saved me. Pick me up and put me on your shoulder. Brought me to the street. Pick me up and put me on your shoulder. Brought me to the tree. How deep the Father's love for us, and how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son, to make a rich His treasure. And how great the pain of seeing love, and the Father turned His breaking, but has wounds which mar the chosen, to bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon my sin upon His shoulder, and ashamed I hear my mocking voice, call out among the scholars. It was my sin that held Him there, until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life, and I know that it is finished. And I will not boast in anything, and no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, in His death and resurrection. Why should I gain from His reward, and I cannot give an answer? But this I know with all my heart, that His wounds have paid my ransom. And why should I gain from His reward, and I cannot give an answer? But this I know with all my heart, that His wounds have paid my ransom. But this I know with all my heart, His wounds have paid my rent. Got a couple quick music clips and watch this. It's called Awkward Invite. Check this out. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, burying your cat, Mr. Bootsy. I love Mr. Bootsy. I guess you love Mr. Bootsy too, huh? Because he's your cat, or was your cat. Hey, I got an idea. Why don't you come to church with me? Because all cats go to heaven, and if you go to church with me, you can find out what happened to Mr. Bootsy.
I don't think that's the way it works.
Yeah, I think it is. No, that's accurate.
I don't think it is.
That's what happens.
I don't think it does.
All cats go to heaven.
It's not the way it works.
Are you calling me a liar? So do you want to go to church with me? You should put another one on your tab, man. There you go. By the way, all cats remember that.
Hola! Hola, amigo! Hola, mi amigo! Hola, amigo! Hola, mi amigo! Por favor, un momento. Hola, vecino. ¿Te gustaría venir conmigo a la iglesia el domingo? Mi iglesia es muy durito.
Burrito?
Divertido y se puede transformar tu vida de pecado. Pecado. not pecado, but pecado es muy delicioso. Sí.
See, I don't even
See.
I don't even know what you're saying.
You speak English?
Yes.
You're not a Spaniard.
Well, I'm a quarter Hispanic, but I don't speak the language.
Serious?
Yeah, I never
Serious?
I never learned the language.
Serious?
What were you saying?
Never mind.
Well, everybody, you go ahead and kick the house lights on too. Yeah, wait a minute. You don't have a Bible, going up to Mark chapter 1. If you don't have a Bible, or are some on front, shout. I'm going to say it's okay if you touch the Bible. So, if you want to borrow the Bible. Yeah, Mark chapter 1, all right? Now,
There have been so many.
do me a favor, none of you kidnap, please. Mark chapter 1. We got 18 minutes to go through Mark chapter 1. So we want to jump in, okay? Do any of you know, but if you did not know this, we're doing the Gospels Challenge this summer. So Mark chapter 1 is today. We're reading Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John all summer long. Kate made up the calendar for you. Hopefully you got that. If you don't, still need copies of it or not, but I can text you the calendar so you have a copy of it too. It's really simple. You're just reading a chapter of those books each day, and it's not even sometimes in the weekend. On Sundays you're doing what the church is doing. Some Saturdays you're reading, some Saturdays you're not. But it's 88 chapters over the course of 112 days. So it's very, very doable. So we start Mark today, but I wanted to ask y'all a question. Just curious, do y'all know why Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are ordered in that order? We're going to take a guess. Yeah.
Is it how things happen? Like in that
No, it's not that guess.
Is it in the order in which they became disciples?
No, it's not that guess. No, it's not that guess.
Because Jesus wanted them to be in that order?
That is a very good postulation to know. So, yeah.
Because that's the order they were like reading.
Flesh that out for me.
So like Matthew was written like first, and then Mark, and then John.
Give me a long distance high five, Weston. Not bad. Oh boy, good. Good. Hey, yes, they're in the order they're in because Matthew's first, Mark and Luke. Actually, that's the one dispute. Is Mark and Luke were written about the same time, and so it's possible that Luke was before Mark, but either way, they were really, really close to each other. Matthew was definitely before those two, and John was most definitely past all those. John wasn't written until almost 80, 90. He wrote his really, really late in the game. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, not all four of them were disciples. In fact, Mark and Luke were not disciples. Luke wasn't even Jewish. Luke was a doctor. Mark, he was the son of a disciple, which is kind of cool. We're going to talk about him a little bit more. In fact, one of the funniest stories in the book of Mark involves himself. I don't even know why he told this story about himself, and he sort of does it like in code. But if you look at Mark chapter 14, Mark's the shortest story of all the Gospels. But he tells this story about this boy that follows Jesus after Jesus gets arrested, but then some of the Roman soldiers see him. And so they try to get him, and they end up taking the sheep that he had with him, and so he runs away naked. Like that's in there. It's just kind of random, like, what's going on? But here's the issue. Right before this story gets told, all of the other disciples have abandoned Jesus. And so the only one that would have known this story was the guy that's writing the story at this point. So why Mark felt the need to tell this story about himself, I don't know. That's the best guess, though. But either way, Mark was the youngest of all the writers. He was not one of the disciples. He was actually the son of the person whose house Jesus performed the Last Supper. So he was a kid at the time. Okay? Now, this is 20 years after Jesus has lived. So this is when he's writing the book of Mark. He later on became one of Paul's partners. It said as Paul took him on a missionary journey, Mark, for whatever reason, just decided to quit. And so he said, Paul, I'm going home. And so he did. He was a cousin of Barnabas. Well, the next time Paul went on a journey, Barnabas was going to go with Paul. And Barnabas said, hey, we should take Mark this time. And Paul said, no way, dude. That guy's a quitter. And so he wouldn't let him come. And so it ended up being sort of like this weird church fight almost. So Barnabas and Mark, their cousins, they went to go do ministry one way, and Paul and Silas went in another direction to do ministry. So twice as much got done. That was kind of a good thing. But second, they couldn't get along, right? So that's the guy who wrote this. Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, I get this. I think if you get it, but don't just say it for whoever it is, keep it off, okay? So that's who we're talking about. There's more I can tell you about Mark, and we can jump in, all right? So we're going to Mark chapter 1 today. But if you want to take a look at the book of Mark, besides it being the shortest, it's also kind of combative. What I mean by combative and by it being shortest, all the other Gospels, the first three, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are called the Synoptic Gospels because they tell a lot of the same stories and they use a lot of the same details. With the exception of Mark, and some of you are kind of this way, Mark used the least amount of details. Like when he told a story, like he just sort of got to the point. Now, how many of y'all are like just get to the point? Like that's how you like to communicate with Mark. whole lot. And we're actually going to see a part of that too. For instance, when Jesus called his first couple of disciples, a lot was going on, and Mark was like, yeah, he just called Peter and Andrew to follow. Well, like, Peter and Andrew didn't just get called it randomly. Like, there was this big sermon involved, and there was this big miracle involved, and Mark just cut all that out. He said, yeah, he just called Peter and Andrew. And then later on, he called James and John too. Like, he just says it in 2 verses, and it keeps rolling. So Mark is just very cut to the chase. Here's the point. And when I say he's combative, like, all throughout the book, it's like Jesus is God. Let me prove it to you. Here, follow it. Don't believe me? Here, look at this story. Follow it. So again, some of you are really going to like this book because that's sort of how you like to be spoken to, and that's how you like to meet others. And that's what's cool about the Gospels, and I hope you start to get this. Each one obviously is written by a different person, but their style of communication is very different, and who they were trying to reach is very different too. Matthew was a very, very Jewish dude, so he was writing to very Jewish people. Mark, he was Jewish, but he was younger, and again, he was just a very cut to the chase kind of a person, right? Luke was a doctor, he was a historian, and so he's very calculated, he's very detailed. It's the one of the 4 Gospels that's absolutely in perfect order. The other ones sort of rearrange some details for whatever reason. And then John is the old guy who doesn't necessarily get to all the details, but he's just talking about his experiences with Jesus. He spent the most time with Jesus, and he experienced Jesus after Jesus was risen from the dead. Remember, he's the guy who saw the revelation, and so that sort of gave him some insight into the other disciples also. Each one's very different, but it tells important stories. So let's jump into Mark. We're going to start at verse. We're going to start verse 16. All right. One day, as Jesus was walking on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew going and net in the water, and they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them and said, "Come follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets at once and followed him. And a little farther up the shore, Jesus saw Zebedee's sons, James and John, both preparing their nets. He called them at once, and they followed him, leaving their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men. Okay, so that was more than 2 verses. Sorry, a lot of it there. Now, again, Mark is very cut to the chase, and so like that's helpful if you're just looking for some basic information rolling on. Like if the Bible were a Wikipedia page, Mark would be really, really great, right? But there's some stuff that I want you guys to see that's actually a big deal, but you gotta understand Jewish customs. So Matthew gets a little bit more, but still not as much. Because the thing about Matthew is because he was writing to Jewish people, sometimes he would say something Jewish that means nothing to us, that would have meant everything to people who were Jewish. Specifically the phrase "follow me." Just 2 words, right? If I just said "follow me," what's that mean? I'm gonna go on to the cookie sheet, follow me, and follow me in the cookie sheet, right? If I said to follow you, if I just said "follow me," though, and just left it open-ended, would you have some questions, Nate? Okay, that's a fair question. Yeah. What if that "follow me" meant you need to follow me for the rest of your life? Still some questions? I don't know if I want to follow you. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of questions. So watch this. In the Jewish culture, though, that's exactly what "follow me" meant. It meant until I die, you're going to follow me. You're going to become like me. You're going to talk like me. You're going to learn to operate and live like I do. You're going to become my disciple, right? Now, this wasn't an exclusive thing for Jesus. There were lots and lots of rabbis who did the same thing. In fact, the way that Jesus recruited disciples was a little bit like how other rabbis recruited disciples, with one clear exception, and this is the really cool one, all right? So if you were a Jewish boy, and by the way, girls, sorry, you didn't get to go to Jewish school. You might have learned to read, but that was if someone taught you how to read. You didn't get to memorize all the scriptures like all the boys did. So you boys are going, man, I'd happily give my spot up to school with girl. So like, Jewish boys would learn all of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. They would memorize all 5 books. They would do this from age 6 to age 13. So it wasn't you have to learn it all like in a day, but they would spend years of their life memorizing the scriptures. Obviously, some of them were better at that than others. But by age 13, every Jewish boy's goal was to be chosen to be the disciple of a rabbi. You know, if I didn't like rabbi school, or if I wasn't very good at school, I don't know that I want to be the disciple of a rabbi. And that's okay, because chances are really, really good that no rabbi was going to pick you. But the way that it would work is Jewish boys, after they got their 13-year-old diploma, that's kind of the equivalent of our high school diploma, you want to be disciples. And then those rabbis would evaluate them. They would look at their test scores, and they would kind of find out about their history, and if this certain science college had an application, now that's exactly what it was. They were evaluating these guys, Connor and Grant, same deal. They were looking at your grades, they were looking at how successful you were, they were seeing what other people said about you, and if you met all of their qualifications, they would come back to you and they would say, okay, Sam, come follow me. And Sam would go, oh my gosh, for real? Yes, come follow me. And they would leave everything, and they would follow that rabbi until that rabbi died. And when that rabbi died, by the way, you kind of get your own rabbi, you get to recruit your own disciples, that kind of thing, right? So it was kind of a cool deal, but to be chosen was a big, big thing. Here's what's cool about Jesus. When Jesus is walking up to fishermen and a tax collector and a zealot, by the way, Simon the zealot, a zealot was a terrorist. That's what we would call him, right? But a zealot was somebody that was actively trying to overthrow the Roman government. And then Judas, the only thing we know about Judas is that he betrayed Jesus, right? But they say that about him like right out the gate, which kind of says that Judas sort of had a reputation for being a guy that just wasn't very loyal. Jesus went to these dudes and said, hey, no, the rabbi picked you, right, Gabe? Like, yeah, no, I was really bad at school. I got all F's. I don't know my Hebrew alphabet. I don't know nothing. Jesus would go, that's okay. Come follow me. And Gabe would go, for real? Yeah, you come follow me. Wow. I want you to put yourselves in these guys' shoes. Seriously. If no one else picked you, in fact, you were the person that applied with several rabbis, and all of those rabbis said to you, yeah, no, I'm not interested in you. And all of a sudden, here comes this guy, Jesus, who teaches like nobody else. And by the way, he's done some miracles already in front of people, sometimes in front of you, and sometimes in front of other people. And that's pretty awesome. You've never seen that before. And all of a sudden, that guy looks at you and says, okay, Grant, come follow me. Yeah, but I'm just a tax collector, which, by the way, if you're a tax collector, everybody hates you. Everybody. And Jesus is like, yeah, I don't care. Why don't you come hang out with me? But Jesus, I'm a zealot. Like, I'm trying to actively overthrow the Roman government. I know you are. Guess what? I'm going to overthrow the Roman government. I'm going to do it. Only you're going to do it. But you come follow me. I'm just a fisherman, Jesus. That's all I know how to do. I barely know how to read. That's okay. Come follow me. This is the God we serve. He's actively, and by the way, especially living where we live, that feels really, really backwards. Like we live in a place, when I say it, like not just Texas, not just Arlington, just in America, period. Like you were driven, you were taught from the beginning, you have to succeed, you have to get good grades, you got to get good grades to get to college, you have to go to college, get a good job, you have to get a good job and make money, and none of these things are going to happen if you're a failure. With the exception of like a brilliant idea like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, but there's basically only 2 or 3 of those guys. The rest of you, if you don't do well, life's going to be bad for you. And very few people are going to have much to do with you. You might get lucky, but chances are you're not. And so you got to score. Do well. This is what we emphasize to you all the time. And it's not entirely bad. We could do a better job as adults of helping code that so it doesn't feel quite so stressful for you guys. We want you to succeed. There's a way, like there's a proven track record of how to get you succeed. I love this about Jesus. This is so cool. It's so encouraging to me. Particularly being someone who didn't always, I did really, really well in college because it was Bible college. Like I had the Bible thing down. If it had been like every other kind of college, I don't know how I would have done. High school was not the easiest thing for me. Certainly that whole math thing, right? You leave the numbers out of it, I'm good. Right? Words and letters, I'm sure, rock on, right? Animals, yes. Speaking, awesome. Numbers, I'm out. But this is the God that we serve, man. He looks at people who aren't successful, who don't match up, who don't have all of the qualifications, who maybe aren't as cool or as smart. In fact, he actively looks at people who aren't cool and who aren't smart and who don't fit in and are actively hated. He says, hey, you know what? I love you. Come be part of my team. And by the way, not everyone knows this, but my team actually is. Texas A&M got nothing on my team. I did UT, Baylor, Tech, or the other school in Texas, whatever your school is, nothing, right? None. You don't hear me say this often. This is still true. Texas, the whole state, has nothing on my team. If you're on my team, you get to win. And this is where, if we understand who Jesus is, we go, really? Like, you want me? Yeah, I want you too. Keep rolling. This is really good. We have all of 2 minutes. Awesome. It says Jesus heals many people. Actually, y'all tell me the stories. Who's some people that Jesus healed? Okay, be honest. How many of you actually read Mark chapter 1 before you came? Awesome. So those of you who read Mark chapter 1 tonight, run down. Who's some people that Jesus healed?
The guy that's dressed
Okay, awesome.
the leper.
Beautiful.
And then there were a bunch of random people who didn't get into details. Like, we went to all the towns because all the people were sick.
Okay. There was one specific person, it was the mother-in-law. Remember who the mother-in-law was? Simon Peter, very good. By the way, you heard me say before, the disciples, most of them were young. Peter wasn't so much. He had a mother-in-law. He had a mother-in-law, meaning he had a wife. But all the rest of the disciples were single guys. Most of them were probably 16, 17, 18. Young dudes. Okay? So yeah, Jesus went and he healed the mother-in-law. This is where we can insert a lot of bad mother-in-law jokes. But Jesus isn't afraid of mother-in-law. So he goes to the mother-in-law, heals her. That's pretty awesome, right? You guys know about leprosy? Yeah. From what you know about leprosy, is it a good or bad thing? Awful thing. Yeah. Biblically speaking, leprosy would have made COVID-19 look like a tiny cold. Now, truthfully, leprosy, I don't know if you know this or not, is like not actually very infectious at all. It's really, really hard. Including like if Sam had leprosy and I walked up and I went, woo, and like licked him, I probably still would get leprosy. It's really, really hard to get. Glad I didn't get it, right? Yeah. But here's the deal. During the biblical age, they didn't know that. All they knew is that people had leprosy, had spots and lumps and disfigured faces, and they usually walked funny because their muscles began to not operate properly anymore. And so when they saw someone like that, they would say, literally, that person would have to yell unclean, and everyone would have to stay away from them. But everyone was terrified of them. Because if you touch me, I'm going to get it, then I'm going to be unclean, and I have to go live with you, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to your crappy junior college school. We're out there in the middle of nowhere with all these sick people. Right? Watch this. And Jesus comes across a guy with leprosy, and Jesus totally could have said, no, stay over there. Luke the leper. Luke, you're healed, but don't touch me. But Jesus walks right to the crowd and lays hands on him and heals him. And by the way, the disciples would have been freaking out, absolutely losing their minds because they hung around with Jesus all the time. And Jesus just touched this guy with leprosy, which in their mind said, oh, now Jesus has leprosy, and he's probably going to touch us now. Right? But that's not what happened. That guy was immediately healed. And then they were freaking out even more so. So Jesus helped people with leprosy. Jesus helped people who were demon-possessed. Jesus helped people who showed up at his house unannounced. When Jesus healed Peter's mother-in-law, that was on the Sabbath, by the way. They had just left church that morning. They went home. Simon's mother-in-law was sick, so Jesus heals her. She gets up and makes dinner. That's how better she immediately felt. Miss Janet, whenever you're sick, do you feel like making dinner? No, not at all. Even if you just got better, you're probably still with us, so feel like making dinner, right? Yeah, but not Peter's mother-in-law. She got so much better, she immediately started jumping out and making supper. When it says that at sunset happened, all of a sudden all these people showed up. The reason why all these people showed up at sunset is that because the Sabbath ended. When the Sabbath is over, you can travel again. See, on the Sabbath, you're only allowed to walk to the tabernacle and back. That's it. But when the sun goes down, the Sabbath is over, you can do whatever you want. So it's like a little party. Whatever you want to in Israel. So all of a sudden, as the sun setting, all these people show up at Peter's house where his mother-in-law was just healed, and they show up banging on the door. Hey, Jesus, my mom's sick. Hey, Jesus, this person's possessed with a demon. Hey, Jesus, this person has leper. Can you help us? And instead of Jesus saying, hey, it's not time, leave me alone, and instead of Jesus saying, I take supper, I just want to chill, he didn't say any of those things. Jesus immediately begins to heal and work. Here's the point. Oh, this part's cool too. Jesus was doing all this in northern Israel. If you lived in northern Israel, guess how southern Israel, specifically people from Jerusalem, felt about you? You were poor, you were stupid, you were literally useless. Nothing, they had a phrase, nothing good comes from Nazareth. Nothing. Like that was the saying of the day. We say things like that sometimes. This is where I would serve Arkansas. But Jesus didn't play by those rules. In fact, Jesus actively went into those areas. Jesus started his ministry in the part of Israel that nobody else cared about. Jesus loved them. Jesus inserted himself. Guys, here's the point. If this is how Jesus operated in his life, how did that operate too? It does not matter where someone's from, what life is like, or what their background is, or how smart they are. It doesn't mean you have to be the very best friends with everyone. It does mean you're going to be kind and considerate and compassionate and loving towards everyone. And this is where some of you go, that's really hard. And I'm going to say, I know. And by the way, there's people that feel that way about you right now. It's not easy. But this is where we get to say, praise God, Jesus' Spirit lives inside of us. And so since he literally did it a long time ago, he's going to give us the power to do these things now. You just need to beg him and ask him, Lord, help me to love these people. Help me to love people that drive me crazy. Help me to love people that scare me. Help me to love people that I don't understand. Help me to love people that I don't have a whole lot in common with. Help me to love other people. Introverts and extroverts and all in between. Help me. Because we're his disciples, remember that whole follow me thing, right? I told you part of being a disciple wasn't just like literally follow me. I want you to learn to be like me. I want you to learn to do and say and actively live your life the way that I'm living. This is what Jesus wants for us in us. He will help us. Just have to ask him. And when we screw up, we also say, Jesus, I do it. Like we do that at home. You pray for us. Okay. Lord Jesus, thank you so much for today. Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for Mark. It's going to be fun to study it. Thank you for someone that's just really to the point. Father, I pray that you would help every person in this room, myself included, to see these little details. And Father, not just to know the stories, information is pretty useless, Father. I pray that you would help us to understand the lessons of what you're trying to show us. Chapter 1 really is just all about you loving all sorts of different kinds of people from all walks of life. Thank you, God. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for loving me. I'm not always that loving, Father. I just love it. Hey guys, I love y'all. I'm glad you're here tonight. If you come back, I will see you tomorrow here at noon for you lunch. Bring a lunch. Come hang out. We like fun. See you later. Bye. Yes. Wow, that's a great one. I got graduation. Stuff like as soon as I can stuff like a knock off ring of coffee. I just get the How's